Hi, I'm Chuck Wooden. I'm also joined by my co-host, Monique Melanson Hunter. It took me a while to remember to say that since you haven't been here in so long. But Monique is back. Welcome back, Monique.
Thank you.
And you're watching the Veterans Corner.
If you haven't seen the Veterans Corner before, it's a show that's dedicated to our veterans, their families, and those in the community that support our veterans.
Thanks, Monique. And once again, welcome back. It's been, what, a month and a half or so?
It has been, Chuck.
How's it feel to be back?
It's great. I missed our guest. I missed the crew.
Yeah.
And
I'm waiting for you to say me, but
yes,
you're not going to say it.
Yes, no, I did. I did miss you, Chuck.
Well, welcome back. We have another great show for you, the viewers today. You might recognize Kimberly Brown. She was here a few episodes ago with Resilience Grows Here.
Yep.
With Justine. Tonight we're going to be discussing the military family connection.
Yep.
It's going to be a two-parter. This obviously is part one.
Yep.
And with Kim tonight is her husband, Chris Brown.
This is me.
Welcome, Chris.
Yep.
We met the other day. It's great to have you here. Chris is a retired Army sergeant.
Correct. Yep.
And Kimberly, if you recall, she's a. Everyone's going to have to bear with me because I got a little touchy, scratchy throat here. Don't worry, I won't give it to you.
You can scoot this way if you want.
Yeah, scoot that way. Resilience Grows Here committee member.
Yep.
She's also part of the Elizabeth Dole Connecticut Fellow.
Yep.
Maybe we can talk about that during one of the two shows. And obviously the founder of the Military Family Connection.
That's correct.
So, welcome. It's great to have you both here. This is a topic that we've actually been wanting to cover for quite some time.
Yes.
And
I have been wanting to cover for a while.
Yeah, and well, you're back.
I know.
And we're here to discuss it.
I made sure I was here for this show, so.
But,
I think the last show you were here for, I was here for.
That's right. And then I left, and now I'm back. I see a connection here.
Look at that. Well, let's start off. We got a lot of information to cover. Monique, you want to?
So, Chris, can you tell us a little bit about your military background?
Yeah. So I joined the Army on January 17th, 2007, and I got out in September of 2015. I was a forward observer, so basically I was in with the infantry element at the platoon level, and when we'd get into a firefight or a situation, we would call for supporting elements like artillery or air support, or whatever else that we need. And while I was in the Army, I deployed 4 times, 3 times to Iraq and 1 time to Afghanistan.
Well, on behalf of the Veterans Corner, all of us here, the viewers, we want to thank you very much for your service.
Yes,
Thank you.
very much, Chris.
What kinds of issues did you face during deployment and also when you returned stateside?
So, the issues on deployment, there's a lot of them. You have the typical things that don't get talked about a lot. There's separation anxiety.
Yeah.
So you're separated from your family and your friends that are back at home, and people don't really talk about that much. People talk a lot about PTSD and stuff like that, but they don't talk about that, and that does affect you because it causes you get sad, you get depressed, and then also the typical combat things, being exposed to combat, the dead bodies and having to do things that people don't necessarily do naturally, So, those are the kind of issues that you typically would face in seeing your, sometimes your friends, sometimes they don't make it home.
Yeah.
So it can be pretty rough.
That's, you're right. We don't talk about that much. And that's, this show, we bring people, groups, foundations on, individuals, organizations to give them exposure so we can talk about these things.
Right.
And I know one of our correspondents today, I said that you'll be back again. So you're definitely going to get exposure, and we're going to get these issues out there.
Right.
Because it is important that the public knows.
It is, because people don't understand how much this affects us for essentially the rest of our lives. And the care that we need, not just while we're in the military, but when we're out. And the care that's afforded to us now just isn't adequate. It's proven in the numbers. So things need to change, and the only way to do that is to tell your stories and get it out there.
Now, when you return stateside, you want to add anything more to that? I mean, what you experienced?
Yeah, when when you first get back from deployments, the first couple of months are the hardest because that's, it's a complete readjustment. Going from combat back to peace and being with your family. Your brain still acts like you're in combat. So you have, reactions to things that don't seem normal to people, but to you because of the way that you're trained and the things you had to do. It is normal to you. So you have to retrain yourself not to do those things.
It's almost muscle memory.
Exactly, yeah. And then over time, and after so many deployments, sometimes those things can become kind of part of you, and that's kind of where PTSD comes into play. And that can take a huge toll on yourself and your family. And so it's, it can be pretty rough.
Just to add something, when Chris returned from his first deployment, that was when you were in Germany, right?
Yes.
When they got back, you guys didn't seek help on base, right?
Correct.
Where did you go?
We went off base because at the time, seeking mental health in the military is not necessarily frowned upon as now, but back in the day,
In 2007?
people, in 2007, and to even now in some ways, seeking mental health could be a career ender for some people.
We've discussed that a lot on this show.
Yeah. So instead of going to mental health, we would just seek therapy outside, on the out on the economy at our own cost, and that helped us a lot, helped us to be able to cope. But it's definitely it's one of those things that, looking back on, I do wish that I had done it through the Army because then I'd have more medical records.
Yeah.
But
You shouldn't also have to be ashamed.
right, you shouldn't have to be, but.
hide.
And actually, years before 2007, it was even worse.
Yeah, absolutely. It's only gotten better.
Yeah.
And in 2007, which was my first experience with it, it was bad. But before that, it was even worse. Like the guys coming back from Vietnam, they had nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
So
Actually, they had less
Less
than
than
nothing.
nothing,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
And it was more, they were attacked,
right.
when they came home.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and obviously that adds to the PTSD.
Yeah, it does.
Right. Chris, you're medically retired, correct?
Yes.
So when you came, now that you're home and being medically retired, what kind of issues do you face with that?
All kinds of issues. So part of me being medically retired, I have several disabilities, some of them physical, some of them are mental. I have PTSD, I have traumatic brain injury, and hip and back and knee issues, and now I'm having breathing issues potentially from the burn pits.
And skin issues.
Yeah, and skin issues also from the burn pits. So for me, on my daily life, it's just, my life is full of anxiety. When I can drive just fine, but when I am driving, when I drive over a culvert or near a bridge, or I see something on the road that wasn't there typically, my immediate sense is IED.
Yeah.
Because I've seen so much of it in my deployments. So, it's not to the point to where it's debilitating for me, but for some people it is. But that's my immediate thought. And if it's something in the road, I'll try to move over to avoid it. But if it's a bridge, then you just have to kind of embrace it and just go through.
Yeah.
And at home, there's a lot with depression and anxiety that comes with PTSD comes anger, and so I don't really get angry, but when I do have issues with PTSD, I definitely my switch will flip quicker.
Yeah.
So I don't get like angry per se, but I definitely
Just like agitated.
I get agitated, and so like the kids
Mood
will be
swings.
right, yeah. And the kids will be playing, and they'll just be too loud, just typical kids playing, and I'll just be like, quiet down, and that's not okay. They're kids being kids, but unfortunately, it's what the life is for me, and we're lucky that I have Kim, and she explains to the kids what's going on with Daddy, and so they understand. They're 4 and 5, so
Support at home is critical.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
We've gotten a lot of materials too and resources. Like we read to the girls. Chris reads them a book called "Why Is My Dad So Mad?" And the first time we read it, it's about a person, a father who has PTSD, and
Yeah.
it was very relatable as an adult to read it. Just like some of the things, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my life. But seeing our 5-year-old daughter's face was just paramount. I mean, she really understands and she feels it, and you could see even at 5, she relates so much, and so we do our best to try to. The kids kind of have to live it too with us as we figure out our way and navigate Chris being medically retired. But, I mean, there's no rule book or handbook or someone saying, so this is going to happen when you medically retire. You might feel this way, you might feel that way, or these are the issues that are going to come with these symptoms. I mean, just even getting them diagnosed has been a barrier in itself.
I mean, a lot of times with PTSD, what affects you, we could have been in the same exact scenario, same situation, side by side.
Right.
And each person is affected differently.
Yeah, exactly.
Some at that time may not even be affected. It's going to get them down the road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, we've covered a lot of PTSD in this winter rotation. Actually, each rotation now we are going to be bringing that topic on the show because it's important.
It is.
It's not just for combat veterans. It's veterans who weren't even in combat. I mean, there's situations just in general training where service men and women are killed. And it also branches out to the public with first responders.
Yep, first responders. And
you get a combat war veteran who's now a police officer or a paramedic.
Double issues.
Yep.
It's, yeah, exactly. And you had mentioned burn pits, and that is something that we are going to definitely have on the show, the topic.
We've had vet
in the
fuel
spring.
on.
Yeah, look at his hands. I mean, from
This
just
is a good day too. I've been, having to take steroids.
and wear gloves overnight to bed, like latex
Well,
gloves.
maybe when we cover that topic, maybe Chris, you can come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Is there any advice you'd give someone going through this process?
Yeah, don't do what I did. Seek the help that you need. Even if you don't think that you need it, go to your resources and use them, because if you don't need them, at least you have them. But if you do need them, they're there. So use them to your advantage. That's what they're there for. That's what they're supposed to be doing anyway. So use them to your advantage, because I didn't do that. I was just on my own. I had when you medically retire, you have like a coordinator, I guess you could say, who helps you transition from the civilian to from the military to the civilian life, and they contact you by email and phone for every week for about a month, and then after that it's once a month, and it's once every 3 months for over a year. But I pretty much just ignored it. I didn't pay attention to it, wasn't listening to it.
I didn't even know they were calling you.
See, exactly. And if I had taken advantage of it, I feel like my transition would have been smoother, going from the hectic military life to the much more calm civilian. So.
One quick, with PTSD, people don't realize, and it goes along with the topic of, subject you're talking about right now, is if it's not addressed immediately, it doesn't just go away. You can go skiing for a month or go camping, it doesn't go away.
Right.
It snowballs.
Exactly.
So if you don't get that help immediately, it doesn't go away. It's not like, I'll just take a weekend off.
Right.
PTSD is something that just manifests into something even bigger.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we've definitely experienced that in our life, and I think that's where this get help immediately instead of waiting is coming from when he says it.
Yeah, because what ended up happening is, I didn't really care about what I was going through, but I really started seeing what I was putting my family through, and that's when I started seeing that. When I could see that,
woke up.
I didn't even really wake up. I just, Kim was really waking me up. She was shaking me awake, essentially. But
Stubborn.
eventually, with her help and with me seeing what was going on, I was able to put it together. And I'm finally now. I've been out since 2015. I'm finally now doing what I have to be doing.
Yeah.
It's been 4 years. It's a long time, but some people never seek help when they should. At least I'm doing it now.
And don't discredit yourself, though. You have made have made progress and you have taken steps. It's just, you
Yeah.
know, I told him even at the darkest time, like as long as he keeps his foot on the gas, pressing forward, that we could make it. But if he ever stopped and refused to put his foot back on, I wouldn't be able to. But he has persistently pressed the gas. So
You have to keep moving. I come from, I mean, I'm a Navy veteran, and I'm also a retired lieutenant with corrections. Now, you know, corrections is one of the first responding areas that really gets hit with PTSD.
Yes.
So I mean, I've seen a lot of that. So, and that's why we're passionate about it as far as getting the word out. And that's why we are going to be covering that subject, all these subjects, every rotation.
And there's, we're learning as we do the show that there's so many different ways to treat PTSD or offer some type of ways to cope with it. So we've had tapping on, we've had the horses, we've had the dogs, so it's pretty good. So so tell me, we've talked a little bit about, you know, where you are right now. So how is life now after you've served and with the services you're receiving? So how has life been for you?
Life now is getting better than it had been. You know, I have a full-time job. I have therapy. I'm in the polytrauma unit now at the VA, and I'm getting most of my taken care of medically, mostly through the VA now as well. So that's all good. But getting to this point has been pretty difficult. You know, I spent a year unemployed because I had a desk job. I started working at Mass Mutual. Like, I got out of the Army on Friday, and I started working at Mass Mutual on Monday. So I drove from Georgia to Connecticut and started working there in Enfield on Monday. And then I left that job because I found a better job at another place. It's COCC, and it's a desk job. It was being a software developer, and it was a great job, but sitting at a desk all day, even though, you know, I was busy, you know, typing things up and doing some light programming, it really got my anxiety going. So I started to stop doing what I was supposed to be doing properly and slowing down, and eventually that led to me getting, you know, fired. I was unemployed for a year, almost 13 months because of that. I tried going to school, but I couldn't pull it together for that really either. So it wasn't, you know, it was just really hard. So I took that year and that's when I started to try to better myself a little bit and pull things together. And then,
Great move.
right. And Kim was pushing me too, because, you know, being unemployed for a year, owning a house, having 2 kids, that's a lot on a family. But
and
Kim
I
really
was
stood
super
up for
sick,
it.
So
Yeah.
it was like
Yeah, it was like a 1-2 punch. It was horrible.
yeah, but here we are. Here we are somehow.
But you're going forward.
Exactly.
You're making progress. You recognize the fact that you needed to get help.
Right.
And you're doing that.
Yeah.
It's only uphill from this point.
Right.
Yeah, and then so I ended up trying to go to the VA, and I did what's it called, vocational rehabilitation, and through that I went to this school called Veterans Assembled Electronics in Hartford, and they were looking for jobs for me, and I was doing my own job searching, and eventually I found Marcus Communications, and I applied to them with Veterans Assembled Electronics help, and got a job there, and I've been there ever since.
And they're super supportive. They've just, like, any VA appointments, if Chris is having a hard day, they are really supportive.
Yeah,
Where
like-
I feel like any other employer.
Yeah, if I have a VA appointment, they understand that they can be pretty hard on veterans, so they don't anticipate me coming back for the rest of the day if I have one. And if I do, they're happy to have me, but, you know, they understand if I can't. So they're very good about it.
Now, actually, we've got about 5 questions left, and we've got about 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
You'd really like to hit all these because they're all important.
Yep.
How does your support system play a role into that? You know, what we've been talking about. I mean, I think we've already covered that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've covered most of that, but really my support system plays a role into everything. I can't plan or do anything without my support system because my memory isn't very good. So all the planning, financials, everything comes down to my support system, which is my wife. She does all of that for me. You know, so, and she's also pushing me, and she's also rooting for me. You know, she's not just saying you need to go to therapy. You know, it's not what she's doing.
Well, I was for a while, but then
Yeah.
I realized that if you don't want to go to therapy, there's no point.
Yeah, now it's just like, you know, we should look into these other things. We should do this. We should do that. And you know, we got involved in several family things and met other families in similar positions as us, and that really encouraged me to get the help that I needed.
And to talk
Working
about it.
with peers is extremely important.
Exactly.
Right. I think that would be very helpful to be with others that are experiencing the same thing that you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, through the programs that I've been running and with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, we've been kind of trying to forge that into happening through the families. We know, for me, I know that I can get Chris somewhere. Getting Chris to go by himself possibly isn't going to be a thing, but going together, you know, there's that icebreaker, there's that protection of having your support system. And then, like at our family luncheon on Saturday, I told the veterans, okay, now you guys are going to go over here and do your birdhouses, but your spouses will be right here doing their teacups. And when I looked over, it was the best moment. I saw all the veterans chatting, and I was like, oh, my plan is working. I was so excited. It was a serious win.
It was.
So can I ask you, so how can caregivers connect and find out more? Because there are others out there that I'm sure would benefit from those services.
Yeah, so for the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, we have so many resources, but one of my favorite resources is, I love Facebook for basically everything. I love social media. It gives you so much anonymity. We have an online support group that they can access. It's called Hidden Heroes Caregiver Support, and anybody can go on and join as long as you're a caregiver. They can also access it through our website, but there's tons of resources out there. They just have to look.
That's great. Excellent.
Now, with about a minute left, do you have any upcoming events that you have scheduled, and how can folks help support the organization?
Yeah, so there's a lot of advocacy work out there. The foundation usually puts out, as well as upcoming events. Let's see, there's a ton, but we can talk about it on the next segment.
The next segment, and also remember, you just send it to me or Monique, and we'll put it on our Facebook page.
Okay,
Veterans Corner.
awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, we got about 1.5 minutes left. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close out?
Just to echo what Chris said, I mean, with veterans, I think one of the main things for us has been that we've drove through it all together. I mean, even on our lowest moments where I wanted to divorce him and never see his face again, I was still on the phone as I'm driving away angrily, trying to make sure that he's set up for the next couple days until I cool
Who
off.
wouldn't want to see this cute mug again?
Yes.
But I think just, family.
We must have them back on again,
Yes,
Chuck. I
yes.
enjoyed that very much.
Together.
Yes, absolutely.
One thing that I wanted to add was that, the VA is a scary place.
Yeah.
I was afraid of it for a long time. That's why I didn't go, but you have to go.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice. Unfortunately, there's just nothing you can do. Just embrace the suck, like they say in the military, and just go deal with it.
Yeah.
And if it sucks, call the VA, call the White House line and
Yeah,
complain.
exactly, and they'll take care of you.
Yeah.
We're going to have them on again to talk about that.
We will. One quick thing. How long has the group been together? When did you start this? We got about 30 seconds
The
left in
military family group
Yeah.
has been together for over a year now.
Yeah.
We've been running it. It's been some grave
Well, you
days.
certainly
but
have
we've
our
done it.
support, and we will definitely be talking more.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you
for having
very
us.
for being
much.
here.
Really appreciate
That's
it.
about all the time we have. Once again, I want to thank our guests for being here. Thanks, and definitely going to be back. I want to thank the viewers for joining us. I'm Chuck Wooden.
I'm Monique Melanson Hunter.
Good night, and we'll see you next time in a Veterans Corner.